Hi there. My name is Elijah Leverins, and I believe I'm here today to give you a little tour through my LMS unit and to touch upon a few things such as resources and potentially even a subtopic of my unit. So, since I am a uh, English and creative writing major and a secondary education major, I decided to do a unit on world building. World building is essential to fictional writing and especially fantastical writing, which we'll get into. So yeah, here's a little view of my LMS unit. First, I've got a little bit of an intro to world building, which is essentially just kind of, I guess, yeah, an intro and the relations to Iowa teaching and technology standards as well as the learning objectives of the unit. After that, we have one resource, which is the world building guide. And I found this to be an especially useful resource for students just to supplement instruction. This will give them a little bit of a guide to designing a thorough and thoughtful world for their creative works and writing a well curated um, land, I guess you could say, for their works to live in. Um, yeah, it's pretty thorough, and I thought that was a good resource. After that, we've got let's see. We've got the subtopic of fantasy. Fantasy is a genre of literature. Um, First, I have a little link that kind of gives a little bit of an intro to fantasy. What is fantasy? And I'll read a short passage of that. Fantasy is a subgenre of speculative fiction, which is an umbrella term for all works of fiction that defy the common laws of our reality, such as science fiction, superhero stories, etc. The key difference between works of fantasy and works of any other genre can be summed up in one word: magic. And I couldn't have put it better myself. That's why I read the quote. Um, but yeah, what makes fantasy especially unique is its involvement of magic, which is something that is discussed further in the unit. Following that, we have a YouTube video that discusses, I believe, the top 20 most popular, successful, or the top 15, excuse me, 15 most successful novels, fantasy novels ever written. And there's obviously the big ones on there. There's the Twilight series, there's The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, many of which I've read, and actually some of which we discuss within this unit in the form of the quizzes and the CFAs, which I will show you briefly. The first of the assessments we have is the formative assessment, and that is in the form of a Kahoot. It is just a quick check for understanding and touches upon a few things, one of which is some of the most common traits found within the fantasy world. Um, there's a few other questions related, but yeah, it's mainly to serve just to check for understanding that students will do with their peers in groups to facilitate um, teamwork skills and essentially to choose a question and answer as such. And yeah, following the CFA, we have a world building quiz, which is the summative assessment. And that is in the form of a quiz of, I believe it was 7 questions. The first 5 questions are multiple choice, true or false, and then the final 2 questions are essay response questions. And those are weighted a little bit more, but their use is so that students can, in their best words, explain the answers to those questions in particular. And as noted, there are a few questions that relate to fantasy. Um, such as J.R.R. Tolkien. What are his most famous works, which we'll talk about again, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. Um, and in the unit, we discuss what makes those works fantasy, why they might be excellent uses of world building or examples of world building. Following the assessments, I have in our teacher resources section, we have assessment rationale, objective alignment and tech justification. And then finally, we have the LMS unit, scaffold, number 4 notes, and integration plan, um, which is essentially just for me. But yeah, I intend on introducing or relying upon these main three resources and allowing the students to kind of explore them to supplement my instruction. But I also will encourage them to seek other means of fantasy and world building skills, such as in various tabletop games, one of which I will discuss briefly. Is Dungeons and Dragons, which is served as one of, if not the most popular role-playing game, tabletop game of the last 40 to 50 years. Um, I'm sure you know what Dungeons and Dragons is. It's a creative and collaborative, and imaginative game that relies almost exclusively on the imagination of the players, the party members, and the dungeon master or the game master. And it is an excellent way to gain practice in using your imagination and building a world, especially if you're the dungeon master, if you're leading the campaign, of building a world where your party or your characters can live and experience successes and trials and assessments and whatnot. So yeah, that was just a brief run through of my unit, but I hope it was it will suffice. And yeah, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.